Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism, narcissistic relationships, and healing from narcissistic relationships. So, today we're going to talk about situationships and why you need to be very careful about falling into a situationship with a narcissist. Again, I'm not very hip, so I was kind of late to the situationship party. Now, but that said, there's things that have been out there for a long time, and it seems they just didn't have a name. And I guess that's where this whole idea of the situationship comes in. It's sort of that demilitarized zone between booty calls, friendships, and full-on relationships is something called the situationship. A hazy nether zone where it's not quite a relationship, but it's a little bit more than a friendship. The rules are undefined, the expectations are undefined, and the healthiest take on a situationship is that it's a place where you are still exploring, but it's not really a thing. So that means it becomes the Wild West with regard to what constitutes infidelity, what are the expectations, even breaking up. If it's a situationship, how does that ever really end? Do you really have that difficult conversation? Now, this term situationship has been around for a while, but someone brought it up to me recently, and when we were talking about it, I thought, I'd never thought of it this way. This is prime territory for a narcissistic person to run roughshod. A situationship is kind of a narcissistic person's dream. It feels like a relationship. It may even look like a relationship, but because it's not one, they get all the benefits of a relationship. And I don't just mean sex. I also mean they get a person to spend time with, or text with, or flirt with, a person to turn to, but without any of those infernal rules, regulations, or expectations. And if the other person wants more, well, then the narcissist has it made. It's just a situationship. It feels almost like a setup for future faking. Yeah, narcissist says, I'd love to see you Saturday. And you say, great, see you then. They pull out at the last minute because they get something else they want to do. You get mad and they say, chill out. It's not like we're in a relationship or anything. Which is a bit gaslighty, and it does become a gaslight place too. You may be enjoying it, but also want to know if you can plan on them doing something with you or rely on them to do something, which we'd expect of someone in our life, and then they can play I don't know, you're asking a lot. This is starting to feel like too much. You may be needing more than I can give. They'll play that card, and then that leaves you feeling like you're needy, and they're in the clear because it's a situationship. The sociological backdrop to these situationships are that, people are marrying later, right? The pressure that relationships be a certain way in courtship and all that, that's all loosening up. And all of this allows space for people to explore before sort of the structure of a relationship sets in. There is room and space to have nights that might feel like dates. You wouldn't have that in a just friend situation. But the whole thing can move slower. And you might have multiple situationships happening. My guess is that a fair share of narcissistic people would love this setup because they can keep you and other people on ice and get lots of validation simultaneously without having to do the work of one relationship. And then if you try to push it, well then, if you're asking too much of them, they get to offload and project on you that you're being needy. Now, I am definitely not saying that every situationship involves a narcissistic person. It's not at all. In fact, now that I look back in my own life before this word existed, I, like many people, have been in more than a few situationships. There's such a pressure out there too in the world for people to be the cool person in the relationship. Like easy breezy, go with the flow, I don't care, you can't hurt me kind of cool indifference. Situationships sort of pull for this sort of cool-headedness, which may not actually be authentic to people. Somebody who really likes someone, anyone who has a history of social anxiety, people who have attachment challenges, people who have a history of narcissistic relationship, people who might care more deeply. A situationship may feel like sitting in a car with no seats or seat belts, chaotic and unsafe. I understand that human relationships evolve, and obviously we have come a long way from courtship rituals and quick marriages. But in any of these relationship structures, being aware of how they work for us, and also being aware of how some of these kinds of setups can actually magnify the likelihood of narcissistic dynamics, can be a big help. I guess my hope is that that helps you with whatever type of situationship you may be in. Again, I'm feeling my years at this point. I didn't know this was a thing, but when somebody explained it and their situationship was with a narcissistic person, I thought, why haven't I thought about this or talked about this before? Everything in its time, and I hope that makes better sense of it. Thanks again.